We continue our conversation about and with inspirational women. Now, my next guest is a full professor, vice principal of research and innovation at UNISA, which is the University of South Africa, but also she is the founder of an organization called Adopt a Learner. The work that they do is, in fact, to provide financial support to young people both in urban areas but cannot afford it, well as rural areas, to ensure that they're able to get the education that they desire. Let's add to the mix the fact that she is proficient in mathematics, and that's actually the reason why she is a professor. We have in the studio with us Professor Mamokgethi Phakeng.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us here this morning. I'm going to have to say that you're one of the most well-dressed and very attractive professors I've met in some time.
Thank you so much, Jerry, and thank you for having me here.
Your story is amazing. One of the issues I think that we must discuss is the fact that we all know that there is a shortage of young people, and women in particular, who are proficient in science and mathematics in South Africa.
True. There aren't many women who go into maths. And first, I think the big problem is that the advocacy about mathematics is very weak. People are told that mathematics is difficult. Young children are told mathematics is not for them. You've got to be born with the brains. You can't do it if you're not born with it. But actually, that's not the true story. Mathematics, anyone can do mathematics. It's about practice. It's firstly about willingness to do it. And then it's about practice. You've got to spend time practicing it. And if you spend time practicing it, you get it. And the nice thing about mathematics is that once you get it, you got it.
It's that whole riding a bike thing, isn't it?
Exactly. It's like driving. Once you learn to drive, you don't forget.
I really wish I practiced more. I never said that I wasn't good at mathematics. I was, but the fact is, one often takes it for granted that you can do sums, you can get your way through, and that's it. However, you have the most fascinating story because, as you say, practicing mathematics is what you did. However, you had to have been inspired by family to some degree. Tell us more about that.
I was inspired by my mom. My mom went to school. She had all her 3 children after getting married and went back to school to do standard 5, standard 6 after having us. So when she started standard 5, I was studying grade 1. And of course, grade 1, grade 2, she sent us to the rural areas to live with our grandmother. So I did grade sub A, sub B with my grandmother. And then I came back at standard 1. But at that time, she was doing teacher's course, a PTC.
Okay.
And so I spent the rest of my life with my mother studying. And so I can remember her doing maths with me, maths problems with me from when I was doing standard 1.
She was tutoring you or helping you, or she was also going through her scholastic experience?
She was tutoring me. I don't know what she was doing in her teacher's course because we never talked about that. We just knew that she was studying. We didn't know what she was studying.
Yes.
And of course we had to pass because she always passed. So it was a competition.
Oh, pressure.
But she was helping me at home. And I can still remember, if you remember, the greater than, less than signs. I mean, the confusing greater than, less than.
Yes.
And I can remember her tutoring me through all that from standard 1 and until I went to matric. I went to boarding school at matric, but my mother was studying. She did matric through night school. And at that time, they took 1 subject this year, 2 subjects next year, depending on how much they can afford and so on. So she took a long time to finish her matric. But the nice thing is that when I got my PhD in 2002, she got her degree, her BA degree, and she was 58 years old.
So you went through your academic careers together?
Yes, we did. I mean, we didn't think about it. That's the nice thing about it. We just did it. It's something that I reflect on now, and I realize all my life of studying, my mother was studying. When you got results, she got her results. If you failed and she passed, it didn't look good. So you had to make sure that you match up. And that's just how life was. And I didn't know anything different, so it didn't feel odd or different or anything else. But then I realized now that it was an advantage.
Yes.
Because she was academically focused, and so we had to be as well.
And she was able to then focus you as her kids academically.
True.
When did the mathematics bug bite?
This is an interesting question. I have to say, one of the things about mathematics is that I grew up in that family at home without knowing that there's anything special about mathematics. My parents never mentioned anything special about mathematics, to an extent that I didn't know that my brother didn't do mathematics up to matric until I finished my degree.
Okay.
Because there wasn't something like maths is difficult, you've got to study more, more maths and more whatever. It was, you've got to be excellent in everything you do.
Right.
You do this, you've got to be excellent at it.
Do it well.
And so it's not like the maths bug bit me. Everything was like that. Everything, you had to be good at everything. My dad took no nonsense. You had to be good at everything. So I didn't realize that it's special. I went to university and I was studying mathematics. And suddenly people were like, wow, you're doing maths. First year is different because there's many of you. And then you go to second year, then the numbers drop. And then third year, yes. And third year, there were 2 of us girls, and then with boys. And then fourth year maths, I'm the only one with 8 boys. You know, and so as you go on majoring in mathematics, people make you aware that actually it's special.
It's unique.
It's unique, but otherwise, if nobody told me, I wouldn't have known. It was just one of those things that I was studying and I had to be good at, finish and cloud. There was no choice about, you know, history is easy or this is easy.
Right.
Nothing is easy. You've got to spend time on it. You've got to study it and do it well.
So help me understand, Mamokgethi. You study maths with what career in mind when you major in maths? I'm sorry, I have to ask. It's like when people study philosophy. I have no idea what that kid is going to do in the future. Let me be honest.
Yes. Good question. I mean, the interesting thing is that at the time when I was at school and when I grew up in the township, there were careers that were regarded as prestigious. So, for instance, my parents wanted me to be a doctor because I was good at maths, and they thought, well, good at science, you're going to be a doctor. But I wasn't interested in being a doctor. I just wanted to study mathematics. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I just wanted to study it because it made sense to me. And I didn't really like the biology. Physics was a little better, but I wasn't really hooked on those things. I did them, but maths made sense. I could check whether I got things right. I knew whether I passed or not before I could get the script. And so I just thought, I'm going to go to university and I'm going to major in mathematics. That's all I thought I would do. And of course, I did education as well, and then decided it's fine. I'm happy to be a maths teacher if it means this is the only way to do mathematics. But I didn't, it's not like my first choice was to be a teacher. My choice was to do mathematics.
Okay.
You know, so I followed mathematics and
well,
and
you
then
were destined
you
then.
Yes. And
PROF, professor in front of your name, was then a destiny.
Well, I didn't even know. A professor wasn't unthinkable. I mean, you don't think about being professor. Because where do I see a professor? Professors
no, absolutely.
were, you know, you come from a working class family. I see professors at university. You think, you know, these are the only people. The first time I started thinking about, that's a possibility was when I finished my master's degree. I had met this amazing woman who's my mentor, Professor Edler. And she had supervised me for my master's research. And I was just about to graduate, and I said to her, I want your job. What will it take to do what you do?
Hi, Wena. I'm still going to take you a step back. So you're going through your master's. What the heck were you thinking you were going to do with the rest of your life before Professor Edler comes along? I want to know.
Well, you see, the thing is, after the first degree,
yes,
I went to teach for a year.
Okay.
At a college of education. It wasn't planned. I was planning to do an honors degree, but then I didn't have money. I didn't raise enough money to go to vets and do an honors degree. So one morning I decided I'm going to go to Hebron College because I had done my matric there. We were the last matric group. I thought I'm just going to pop in there, you know, and tell them I've got a maths degree. I had obtained 74% for my maths and I thought, well, I'll find my teachers there, I'll tell them. So I walked in and I said to them, wow, I'm graduating in April, I passed maths. And the person who was the rector at that time said, oh, come to my office. And they drew me into the office, the rector and the vice rector and the registrar. And suddenly there was an interview.
Oh my.
And then I got my first job as a lecturer. I wasn't even 21. I turned 21 that year.
Wow.
And, you know, so it happened that way. And during that year, that year was a year, I only taught 1 year in that college, but it was a turning point because that's how I got interested in not just mathematics, but how children acquire mathematical concepts.
And
what
the
does it mean?
sharing of that very important knowledge.
Exactly. How do children acquire mathematical concepts? How do you make it accessible to them? You know, how do people think mathematically? I got interested in the mathematics education during that year because I
Right.
was teaching teachers. And that's the year that I decided I'm going to follow mathematics education.
Okay.
I want to do more about this because that was something that got my attention, because I could do the mathematics plus the teaching and learning of it at any level.
Wow. So then, I mean, full professor, and then still realizing, as we have during our years of democracy, the last 20 years, that there's a real lack, and the constant emphasis by government as well as business that we need to start ramping up the South African society and our young people in terms of science, technology, and mathematics. This must have hit you really hard to the extent that you started the organization.
I did. I started Dr. Lena in 2004, and that was 2 years after my PhD. Something happened when I got my PhD. I realized I got an award for the research that I did in my PhD. I was the most outstanding young researcher that in 2003, and it was at that time that it emerged that I'm the first black woman to get a PhD in mathematics education in the country. I was like, wow, I didn't know that. Then I thought, this is serious. I mean, if I'm the first, am I going to be the last?
Oh.
Okay, so that's what hit me. I thought, I don't want to be the last. And then I thought, how do I make sure that I'm not the last?
Yes.
And then I thought, when I was young, where I went to school, what did I need at that time? We grew up poor. I was in the school in the township. It would have been good to have someone who I can look up to, someone who could support me. And then I thought, I'm going to be that person. I went to the school where I did my grades 7 and 8. And I said to them, I would like to start an adopted learner in that school because, it's closer to where I grew up.
Yes.
It's just in the same zone in the township where I grew up. It's where I was, and I thought this is where I'll get people like me, who can achieve what I have achieved.
Yes.
And I can be that sister, that help,
that role model, that
role model
system.
who helps them get there. And that's what I did. The first group of learners I selected from there, and it grew. I mean, at the moment we've got that group of children, by the way, that I selected in 2004. They finished matric last year, and so they are at varsity. I mean, there's one or two who failed, and there were some who were a little ahead, but the bulk of them finished matric last year. They are at UP. I've got students at VETS, and some are at UNISA, and they're studying towards their degrees.
Oh, wonderful!
And it's such a wonderful feeling to know that even though you're the first, that's not the glory.
No.
It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to do something about it, because being the first gives you the stage.
And isn't that what a legacy is?
That's it.
Otherwise, you are the only one, and what's the point of that?
Exactly. So I used it as an opportunity to create a space for others to achieve what I have achieved.
So help me understand again how the adopter learner works, because I'm assuming you cannot do this all by yourself.
I actually do.
Wow.
Firstly, I don't raise funds. What I do is that when people invite me to speak at their events, whether it's a school, whether it's corporate, whether it's whatever, the money that I get there goes into the Adopter Learner Foundation. Okay, so that's how I make the money. I can't hire anyone because that's not a lot of money.
Okay.
So I do it all myself from home.
Okay.
My son helps me, my husband helps me, that's it. And I've got a few people who volunteer to assist.
All right.
Like when we go to the schools, that's when I get people to assist. The other help is that because I'm professor, I'm supervising PhD and master students. So the PhD and master students, I fund from my grants. From my profession, I have a research grant.
Yes.
And a research grant I would use to fund my PhD students so that they get their PhDs.
Yes.
Their payback is that they have to help the students
that makes
who are at
complete
school.
Sense.
Because I can't afford to pay anyone. So I use the resources that I have. So the ones who go to university have to help the ones who are at school. The ones who are doing PhDs have to help the ones who are at lower levels. That's just how it works.
It's actually a great system, and I'll tell you why I say that. Because the younger we are able to teach people that your education is not just for you, it's to be shared with the community, the better off we're going to be in the future.
True. True. In fact, the student who I was working with when I started Adopt Helena and we traveled together, Tony Essien, got his PhD last year. He was doing his master's then, and we were traveling to the school. I was, and what I do is that I go into a school, I spend the week, I teach. The teachers come into the class, they watch me teach. I watch them teach, we video everything. They can critique my teaching, I can critique their teaching. And Tony was there with me, and we started this Adopt Helena. We opened the account. In fact, when I opened the account, he was one of the signatories because I didn't have a committee and so on, and I wanted to put money in there to make sure that it's separate from family money. And he got his PhD last year, and I mean, he worked with me throughout, and this is how it works. That those who, he was doing a master's, he continued to do a PhD, and there's others now, and they keep helping the other ones, the younger ones, and that's how it grows.
Ah, Professor Mamokgethi Phakeng, what an inspirational story. Studied alongside her mother. Thank you so much for being here with us. Studied alongside her mother, who was making her way through a tertiary education while she was going through primary and high school. One of the first women in research and to get her PhD in mathematics in South Africa, continuing to inspire young people around her. The Adopt a Learner Foundation exists if you'd like to support, even though she says she does it on her own. I'm going to put this out there. They can find them at www.adopt-a-learner.com. Just the most inspirational story of one woman's journey through mathematics that is inspiring many, many others. Her first lot of students making their way through university as we speak. You can see from the smile on my face that I'm hugely inspired.